Good evening, everybody. My name is Court Strat. I'm on the board of One Spirit, and I'm here to introduce my dear friend, Elena Radford. The Harvard Business School isn't exactly the place that you expect to meet an Incan shaman, but we were both there for the graduation of a mutual friend. And when I met Elena, I knew immediately that she was not only a beautiful spirit, but also a very gifted and talented wise person. Born in the mountains of Peru, Elena Radford inherited the knowledge and gifts of her ancestors. But she, like all of us, was given a choice. And at first, she decided to decline the gifts. And at 19, moved to the United States to attend university. She became the mom of two amazing boys. Later in life, she accepted her calling and was trained by an Incan shaman in her home country. Elena is committed to preserving and sharing the ancient knowledge of her forebears, the Incas and the pre-Incas, who created remarkable individuals and communities. Let's give a big round of applause for Elena Radford.
Thank you so much, Kurt. I want to say thank you for being here in this class today. It is going to be a little different because this knowledge that I'm sharing with you is a knowledge that is almost dying. It's almost non-existent. So I'm committed to be able to bring this knowledge back to you. So I think the best way to explain this is it is possible that the ancient people from Peru had a technology that we are not aware of it, and it died in the process of while the people were disappearing because of the different revolutions and the take of the Spaniards trying to shut down the culture to bring another knowledge, and that was the case. A lot of this knowledge was destroyed in the way how I got into this knowledge is because my son was really sick and he had a lot of anxiety and I couldn't understand what was going on with him. So in my journey of trying to find the cure for my son, I went back to Peru several times, and that's when I learned about what I get to share with you today. And one of the things that I want to share first is how we see things from different perspectives. Everything is based in the observation that we have into the outside world and the inside world. I say inside world because the ancient people of Peru, the people that carry these genetics, knew how to connect to the inside energy to be able to heal themselves. And one of the things, the first things that I teach is the energy of love. The energy of love is the foundation of what can possibly be in everything that you can observe. And by that, you bring balance. And then they believe in the next energy, which is the energy of service, that whatever you express in your observation of love, you can serve yourself first. And by reflecting that in yourself and teaching yourself to love more, which is self-love, then you can reflect that in others. And that's how the wisdom is transferred through the wisdom is transferred into our genetics and our observation of who we are. So they observe plants, animals, even movements of climate change, because sometimes they had that. And through the history of Peru, because we get to see that there's so much, in Peru is a country where you see so much movement of the ground and we have a lot of earthquakes. So people, in a way where, I shouldn't say force in the negative way, but in the positive way, to observe the behavior and to prepare themselves for things to come. So with that said, some of the observations that they noticed that they took them out of their self-love was what I call now blocks and limiting beliefs. So in a behavior, because we can now own these behaviors, they are already, we're exposed to these behaviors, are frustration, condemnation, when we can pleaser, a people pleaser, and so on, when we doubt ourselves, when we deny ourselves, when we have jealousy or envy. To them, energetically, as an observer, these are things that will take them out of balance. And in the translation of their language and knowledge, the closest I could translate it to our days is behaving as a victim, right? Because it's a choice. A behavior is a choice. That's something else also learned coming from the space of love. A behavior is a choice. So the next choice that we have that takes that out of balance are the behaviors of survivors. When we're surviving something, we're producing with fear, or we're producing with scarcity or lack of something. And because of that, some of these blocks and limiting beliefs can be manifested in our behavior, like anger, not being truthful to ourselves, cheating others, stealing, competition where we're diminishing others to make ourselves feel better, or procrastination, or disapprove of ourselves. Can they start triggering these behaviors to push us to survive something? But in the process, it's not working because it's coming from the space of fear. So that's one of the things I learned. If you're coming from the space of fear, or we're behaving as a survivor or as a victims, that doesn't mean that we have not been victims. There has been situations where, like a car accident, or there's so many things that can happen that where we can be the victim because we don't have control over it. But there's a moment where you can bring yourself back into balance and choose something else. And what you can choose is, and let me just show you this here. Oh, sorry, but you can choose a self-love. So when we choose to love ourselves, we take ourselves back into balance. So why is this so important? You're probably thinking, this is not really different to what we experience in another teachings. There's a big difference in what I learned through healing my son. And is that when you go into self-love, you make an alignment in what we call your cells. And cells are made of proteins, which are molecules. So by doing that, we're aligning things. So if in your proteins, you're sending the message, I am a survivor, or I'm a victim, and you're behaving in that way, then the molecular level of the water is going out of balance. And that's affecting your DNA and your RNA, and you start getting sick. It can be as getting stressed, having anxiety, because that's what you're feeding your body as fear and insecurity and blocks. And eventually your body will start creating those molecules with the information of the behavior. So when I work with my clients, because one of the PFs that I have learned through this process is through the energy, and I'm looking into the energy, and I recall the memory of certain events in their lives that are creating stress and anxiety. As soon as they are aware of it, the energy of stress goes away, or the energy of insecurity can go away. So ourselves, what I learned from the Inca, my Inca teachers, is that cells, proteins, and atoms, which is what we really are made of, will carry the information of the thoughts or ideas that we choose to create in our mind, and it will respond in that way. So how did the immune system plays a role in this, right? The immune system plays a role into the immune system will possibly take the energy of survivor or the energy of a victim if you don't choose to be in the energy of self-love. So this is a process. The behavior, our thoughts, our ideas, what we think about ourselves will become the food for your body. What you're thinking is what you're digesting in your body. So regardless your understanding of cells or molecules or atoms, because we're made of them, it doesn't matter how we look into our body, we'll carry those memories and we're going to act into it. So let's go back over here. If you're thinking, that with anger, you will eat anger, you will digest anger, and your liver will suffer the consequences of it. If you have aggressions in the same way, if you punish somebody else, you're punishing yourself in the same process, because the Incas were able to observe all the behavior in the body. They spend hours and hours and hours, what we call Inca scientists will spend hours and hours seeing that the outside world is just a manifestation, or it will be the food to the inside world, which is your body. So we talk about multiple possibilities. In the Inca language, to have multiple possibilities is to talk about the future. The Incas do not focus in the past as a point of reference. They focus into the future. And that's why they call self-love. So in order to focus into the future, we have to create intentions. Intentions that create a division or separation. I'm not just going to use a point of reference of good and bad. I am so good or you're so bad. Those create separations. And the energy of black and white, just because we're using this as a point of reference, if you're using black to be able, a color to be able to present something that's negative, and then white to represent something positive, you're creating separation. It is so much better in their language. They talk about possibilities in every way. There was no such a thing or such a language as right or wrong. I am right and you're wrong. Or have that competition between two forces of energy, because those are the ones who create the energy of survivor or the energy of a victim, and then it shuts you down in your energy of self-love. Next, Dave. In nowadays, a lot of people use that concept as two ideas. The idea of the third dimension, where this is another concept that'll be a little hard for you to understand, but in the knowledge of the Incas, they did not believe in linear time. They believe in the energy of intention, the energy of possibilities, that everything is possible. Even if you lose the opportunity in the past, that possibility can come back in the future if you are in the energy of self-love, because your energy of self-love will trigger to present the same possibility in the future to help you to complete what you couldn't complete in the past. For instance, I had the opportunity to witness this mother who was a single mother. She didn't have the time to spend with her children because she was working in 2 or 3 jobs. But because she was in the energy of self-love, the universe presented another opportunity later on in life when their kids were older to be able to complete what she couldn't complete when her children were young, because she didn't have the money and she had to work for the money to support the children. So when we are in the energy that I call the intention, pure intention of the heart, then we can bring back possibilities to complete things that we couldn't complete. Next, please. Thanks. So the third dimension is a dimension where we're blocked because of survival behaviors or victim behaviors. And the fifth dimension, which is the energy that the Incas believe, is a reality where the past, present, and future work together to make the balance of self-love, to be able for you to be there, to be a stand, to create the future that you want to create. Next one. So why is this important? Why self-love is important? And a lot of people in the time of the Incas, one of the things I learned is that when they represented the heart, when they felt the heart, they saw it as a pink energy, as a pink crystal. So they will use that pink crystal to be able to recharge in that energy, which was self-love. So to them, the frequency, pink frequency, is self-love. So when I work with that energy, for instance, if I have somebody who has betrayed me, let's say that, then instead of trying to go into the energy of being a victim or a survivor, I send the frequency of self-love from my heart to the heart of that person, and I can change the reality through using that, because we're using a technology, because it's connected to the atoms, molecules, water, in your alignment in your body that can create possibilities of balance and peace. And so go ahead, next, please. So some of the ways how you can create self-love is energy of gratitude, being honest with yourself, recreating feelings, seeing your values, self-respect, and also the Inca cross. We'll talk a little more about that. But I think what I really want you, all of you, to understand is that we're talking about technology here. We're talking about the movement of the body using concepts that you create in your mind. Go ahead, next. Thank you. So this is the Inca cross. The Inca cross is the energy of self-love. And like I was referring before, it will always help you to be in the present and the future. If you are in the past, then your points of reference are survival or victim, right? Again, you did not create those behaviors. We inherit that from our ancestors because we're in the third dimensional world. But the intention of the Incas were to be able to create a communication with the body itself that they can create a new reality. And that's why as a culture, and they have over like 8 million people, they didn't know it was poverty. They didn't know it was trauma until the Spaniards got there and destroyed their culture. And by destroying their culture, they used violence and trauma was created. So this knowledge was disappearing, and it has been, people were hiding this knowledge because they were forced to believe in something else that was religion, which was completely different to this belief system that was science. So their culture was based in love, trust, connection, acknowledgement, protection, awareness, happiness, passion for life, expression, responsibility, productivity, and being in the present in the truth. So the Inca cross is actually a molecular movement that they understood, and they will think about it, and they will create the realities that they were creating in their cultures. And that's why, even though Peru is a place where we have so many earthquakes, climate change, because the El Corriente El Niño, which is a flow of energy comes through the ocean, they managed to be able to feed their people in hard times, what I would consider now climate change. So let's just, and that's important, you get to remember that. Next, please. So everything that they did, and also we do in the Inca cross, is to be able to understand people, their molecular level, their behavior, why you as an observer are getting what you're getting in your life. If a mother's always complaining about their children, guess what you're going to get? Children that are going to give you more problems to complain more, because that's the molecular level that is working with the brain. So by training the brain, we train the molecular level, and then we can cut these behaviors, in ancient times called clearing these behaviors. Because the memory of the behavior, the memories that are in the DNA can trigger into in the same behavior. That's why when a mother has a dark color hair, there's a pretty good possibility the child that's born is going to have a black color hair, if that's the color of the mother, because our body is always triggering realities based on our observation. And these have become a standard already, but there's another things that we are not aware of it, which is in the energy level, but it can be creating the corruption of the world, it be creating new bacteria, it be creating new epidemics, it can be creating destruction. And so it's a whole concept of energy, which is the behavior of the body, plus the connection to the mind and to the heart. Go ahead, Han. Next. So even their buildings, everything that they did in the Inca culture was related or based into the molecular level of the body, or the mountains, or the portals energy, the alignments with the planets, because everything was connected in the behavior or electromagnetics, the behavior of the water, oxygen, hydrogen, because they were able to read those frequencies. And that's why they understood the human behavior. Go ahead, next one, please. All right, so this is another way of thinking, is the Inca way distribution. when they were think about the behavior, the molecular behavior, they were able to translate this in the language that we call the 50-25-25. It's a distribution of 100 points, where 50 of the points is for your personal development. And 25 of the points, which is in the center, will benefit generations to come or the ancestors. So they always were clearing and maintaining the frequency of the body, so it can be in a higher frequency, so they can be able to create thoughts and ideas and generate a distribution for the community, which is the last 25 points. So even when they were to say hi, they'll always say something like, it's for me, for our families, and for the community. And so every time that something will happen in their community, it didn't rain in some of the places they're supposed to rain because of the changes in the flow of the water that come through the ocean, then they'll know how to do the distribution to other people. So they didn't have to go in scarcity. The whole system foundation of energy was in a distribution that everybody will be okay, regardless what was the condition that they're going through. Okay, so now how do they keep their energy? This is something else I want to share, and I don't expect you to understand everything in how the math in what I'm presenting, but in the general idea is that every time that there will be a contribution to the community, there will be always energy that will come back to them, and that energy will create abundance instead of creating scarcity. So that's the way how they create it. Next one. And so another thing that I learned through this concept is every choice that we have has a consequence. Next one. So if they chose to be, and this is something that took me years to understand, inside of our molecular behavior, we have other symbols of our codes. And this is the way how they move and how they connect. The first one is intention. Other people call it the secret geometry of feelings. The center of creation, where there's a lot of people that are giving others, but they don't take care of themselves. This symbol is the one who will adjust that. The symbol over here, which is the 5 points of power, is the symbol that allows you to understand that you're unique and you're different. And the Incas will spend time in their community to teach their people that it was okay to be different, and based on the differences, what are the qualities that they can have. Nowadays, we can translate it as they could see your full potential and they will train you in your full potential. So these are some of the things I do in my coaching. I check into what is in your cellular level, and I will train you into these different movements. And it's not that I'm reprogramming your energy, it's that I'm just helping you to remember who you are and the balance of your conscious level, subconscious level. We live in a society that we are so contaminated with behaviors of victims and survivors that we separated the conversation, the connection of the conscious level with the subconscious level. So there's a lot of things that we are doing that we are not even aware of it. That's the subconscious level. So through the training of the Incas, they were able to tap into what was in the subconscious level. And so they saw every person that will come into the reality, into the world, as a gift of God. And that's why it was okay to be different, because there was something to learn. A beautiful gift of God, or Mother Earth, was to bring the uniqueness of everyone and be able to help them to develop that. In personal intimacy, it has to do with the genetic behavior. The story of the genetics that you bring in your body. And then to move that knowledge into the future, to be able to create a world without no suffering, a world without no traumas, a world of abundance, a world of full potential. So next, please. So what I do in my advanced classes, I teach people that in order to reach your highest potential, you get to travel to the future through love and wisdom, self-love. And by going into the future and connecting to your highest possibility, which is your highest self, then you co-create with a possibility and become who you want to become. So aligning the body through the process of love, which is a technology for us, we help you to bring balance from the experiences from the past, help you to be in the present, connecting to your highest potential and moving that frequency or bringing your uniqueness that everybody can benefit from that. Like you're a gift of God to us, everybody. So next, please. Now, why is so important that there gets to be a training of value yourself, love yourself? Because when you go into these levels of creation, time is not a block. The time in the fifth dimension is cellular level. When I look the behavior of your body inside of you when you're digesting food, it doesn't understand the concept of time. When you're thirsty, it doesn't understand the concept of time. When you're suffering, when you're in pain, then that block that's creating that, it creates you in a being of time. So we observe time as a block that may not allow you to create what you want to create. And again, these are very different concepts, but I think it's important you get to understand that there is more there that we see. There's a way how we can help people or we can help ourselves. For instance, I had 3 days ago a client who went to a physical therapist, and because she got the accident, she fell down from her bike and she couldn't even move her arm. And while I was talking to her about what I was seeing in her arm, while I was balancing her, the pain went away, and only one day she was able to move her arm again. It was the story that she was creating from the past in the time, space that was not allowing her to heal. So this knowledge is very powerful, because when I teach people to channel, they're also learning how to heal themselves and creating this possibility in the cellular level. Everything is possible. Again, these are teachings for thousands and thousands of years. So for me to say that I know everything is not a reality. I'm learning every day into what else it can be done with this. These are codes in our genetics, next please, that we can reintegrate and go back and create what we want to create. Now, we always focus in the drinking water in our process, because water is such an essential creation, because water can change memory, water can record memory, water can have memories of thousands years ago. It's like a computer. So if you know how to tap into the energy of the hydrogen, you can see different stories. So one of my gifts that I learned through my ancestor lineage is that I have the gifts to tap into these stories of thousands of years ago. As we speak, and that's one of the things that you get to see through self-love. And I know it takes several years of training, but I have known people that can master the energy of love, and they can see past lives, the stories of creation, how things get to be created organically. So it's huge what it can be done with this technology. Go ahead, next, please. All right. So in order to go into and connect to your molecular level to understand yourself, it's always based in intentions. So the first step when we go into the future and we go into the channel or creating new realities in the body are creating 5 intentions. Next one. Because intentions are everything, because it's connecting you to the future. All right. So this is a crystal. But for instance, I want you to think these are 3 different levels of water, which is the solid, which is the air, liquid, and gas, right? So when we're working to the level of creating intentions, the idea is to materialize the intentions, just like you see solid here. So once we materialize our intentions, and the reason why I'm saying this is because we have the power in our brain to materialize what we want. But if we just want to make sure that if you have pure intentions, then you're materializing what is the best for you. So there's a consequence to every choice that we have. That's the message I'm getting. So next one. So again, going back to the Inca way distribution, in process of my classes, in the one-to-one consultations, unless somebody's being trained to go into the fifth dimension, we really don't talk too much about this, but we just focus into releasing blocks and limiting beliefs first, and then bringing the new programming, what it used to be before the damage was created, and then empower and help people to be proficient in their highest potential. So it's so important. You know, as soon as we do that, one of the things that will support a person to stay in that is making sure that we take some of that distribution into the world. So we make it accessible to anybody who can be ready to go in thinking in a higher way of life. Why? Because the Inca way is about being a contribution to the world. Next one, honey. All right, so what we're thinking about thoughts, right? How, now you know, I think as you know right now, what I'm trying to help you to understand is what you think is what you become. And if I say, I love myself, I'm opening myself to higher possibilities. Go ahead, Han, next one. And then when you feel, and this is the other component to go into your genetics, when you feel that you love yourself, then you can generate and you connect to that to your mind, then you are already creating possibilities for you to get out of situations that are not working for you. It has to be the feeling of the heart and the thought of the mind coming together. Next one, Han. So in the process of teaching people how to use the symbols to go into a higher frequency, we learn that because we're working in the genetic level, we don't use time as a concept, but we use space. Because if you look into an atom, it's mainly space. So with these tools, you use the space that is inside of the atom, so electrons, that you can move the different blocks and limiting beliefs out of your space and manifest the things that you want. But then again, this is something that when I do one-to-one consultations, we don't talk about this, but this is the process I'm using. Go ahead, next one. Right, so this is just, again, I'm using the slides that I use for my classes because it's the introduction. So I help them to envision that they're traveling into the future space, taking the crystal in the, not in the driver's seat, but in the passenger seat, be able to manifest that when they go into the fifth dimension. Go ahead, Han. Now, there is part of the process, there's a moment where the people who are training to go into the fifth dimension get to a place, what I call the research and development room, where they work into integrate their behavior, the new behaviors that they want in their life, that there is a white table where they place their intention. And that is the place, which is actually a molecular in the body, that is trained since the beginning of the classes to be able to transform that, to be able to help to generate abilities to feel, hear, or envision things that can be in another realities. They are becoming multidimensional in this level in the classes. But if I'm working with somebody who has stress or anxiety and don't have this training, my intention is not to train them, but just to release what's not working in their lives so they can go into balance. Again, you know, it's just taking people back into abundance, because our body language is not scarcity. Our body language is abundance. Abundance is such a part of who we are that we forgot about it. And that's why it was fascinating for me to learn about these ancient cultures that they knew how to create that, the Inca culture and the pre-Incas that have these symbols. Next one, please. Right, so in the fifth dimensional room, in order to connect to that specific part of your body, we use the 5 intentions, right? But I think I just want you to understand that even when people are listening to the recordings for as a part of the class, they are ready because of the energy can be transferred. They are already activating themselves into the energy. So part of my job, even though people are coming just for 1 or 2 consultations, is to be able to activate and help that energy of the body to go into a higher frequency. So because that's the only way how we can maintain that energy. And I teach, I think it's so important. I remember one time working with a woman who had Lyme, and for like a whole week, the virus was gone and she was feeling much better. Well, to me, Lyme is not a virus. Lyme is it's like a mushroom. So I'm sorry, when I go into the genetics, sometimes I can see the behavior of the virus, or I can see how they look like. And so my language is a little different to what it can be, the language that is used in these days. But she went back into her mind, becoming a victim, behaving as a victim. And because the body didn't have enough time to support the healing, she was able to attract again or awaken the Lyme in her body. So it's very important to understand that you're very powerful in your mind, and you can attract things by just thinking something that is not for your higher self. So that it can create illness. Next one, please. So you're an observer. I think one of the things that I'm teaching you today also is that you observe. You're not the body, you're not the thoughts, you're not the behaviors, you're the observer. And when you observe, you become the spirit. And as an observer, observing your behavior being a victim or survivor, or a behavior of self-love, you are creating your future. You're observing something that you create in the future. So observation is very important, and that's definitely a big element into what I being into the world. Like I was talking to this woman, say I can do the healing, but if you choose to stay in the energy, if the behavior of victim, is not going to work. So again, it's the component of being an observer when it comes into the teachings of the Incas and pre-Incans that had this knowledge. Next, please. So fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension, we have connections with light beings. That can be, some people call them angels, some people may call them just a cellular behavior, or some people may call them your higher self. Obviously, higher self is a little different to the light beings because they have different behaviors. But there's always somebody assisting in a higher reality in the process of the change. So I think this is a good time to say, I did not create this technology. I am the observer, and the person can place the intention. It is the energy that's in the fifth dimension that does the healing. For instance, if in the case of in the situation of the Lyme, my job as observer is to wish for a light being or for energy to come and remove the Lyme out of the body, or remove the infection out of the body. So it's my self-love that allows me to be the observer that is going to place the intention for that to happen. So this is a community work. Next one, please. So I also teach people in my class that a 5 minutes meditation in this process, and this is the time where, if you go to my website, there's a free 4 free videos that says the introduction to the Inca way, and in these 4 videos, I'm already activating your energy to the process where you can meditate into these tools every day for 5 minutes, and you're already aligning your body. You don't have to go to my classes that they can be intense in a way where you're learning how to create more of that reality for you and become part of it. But that nevertheless, the teachings are there already. And you can go there and see how it works if you're open to it, and then you can maintain your energy in a frequency of self-love by just witnessing yourself and your behavior, and just meditating in what you don't want and what you want. Remember, your mind is powerful. The next one. And if you connect it to your heart and the feelings, that's better. Something else that I do is I dance to the symbols. If I don't dance in the system, I meditate in the symbols. But either way, I make sure that this gets to be my everyday activity, because I'm connecting to my cellular level. And that's how, when I get sick, I ask my body, why are you sick, body? What's going on? And sometimes, most of the time, the body will tell me what's happening, right? Because one of the things that I learned is that the body is like the world. Liver is a community that has a context of belief systems. Our kidney acts in the same way. It's a community, or it can be a different country where they have different set of values, and values in the sense that all of them have the same values, but they're very sensitive to what we eat, to what we talk, to what we think. And so once you learn to channel, once you're learning how to heal yourself, you can talk to your body and you can stop those behaviors, and then you can take yourself back into balance. Let me give you an example. Let's say the other day my arm was hurting, my right one. And so I tap into the energy of what was going on. And it had to do with something that happened 10 years ago. That through time, that was running over and over and over again in my arm, in one atom, transfer that information to the other ones and manifest in my whole arm, not be able to function very well. So it takes one story, one tiny little one you create in your mind to take you out of balance. And the body will act into that for you to be able to release that. And next one. All right, so the reason why we choose to go to the fifth dimension is to reach to our highest potential. And then to reflect your highest potential to your family and others. That is very important through self-love, because self-love will be the energy that will trigger to go everything back into balance, and possibilities will present to you where you can learn more about yourself. The next one. Now, when you learn to work with your body in the fifth dimension, it's important to know that it's a pure intention, and it's usually what makes you vulnerable. It can be you can be vulnerable to a sense that you think you're not good enough. But the truth, that's just an illusion. But the truth is that if you're having that insecurity, it's possibly because your energy is telling you that you're good enough for anything that you want to do. So blocks and limiting beliefs will trigger you into go out of balance, and your vulnerability about a situation is what it wants to bring you back into balance. So when we go into the fifth dimension, according to the gifts, because everybody's different, right? Some people can see, some people can hear, some people can feel. Based on what they will learn how to talk to in tune with the light beings or to the body, and they'll create what I call an action plan. And through the action plan, they learn how to heal themselves or channel or change the molecular level. So why is this so important? Because I think we're living in a time in society where things are going so much out of balance, where people have to choose between food or getting medication, or there's higher levels of anxiety, it's so much out of balance that we need to learn to rely on ourselves and balance ourselves. And I'm not saying that I don't mean to bring down other societies or other communities, but I think we need to learn to respect each other, where I don't think as a society, we should let anyone to choose between buying food or having a medication to feel better. There's no balance in that. And that is what motivates me in doing this and teaching people in how to, and it's not going to happen overnight, but eventually how to tap in their own energies and do their own healings, channel their own information. I have programs like for writers, book writers, or film writers, and people can bring new ideas into the world from the fifth dimension. I also have programs. We'll start working into what I have next on this. Let me show you this right now. Next, please. Next is what's for our people, right? Next, please. This is what's next in the Inca way. So this came to me because I was trying to heal my son, and I was blessed to know that I was looking to reach my highest potential, and my highest potential was to bring this knowledge and bring it back to my people, to bring them back their knowledge, because this knowledge is it belongs to them. So next, please. So what is next right now for the Inca way is to, there are 3 generations here, to be able to reunite people in the into generations to come in the past, and bring together the past, present, and future to be able to create a better future, especially now that we're going into climate change. And all that will be through self-love, which is teaching back these communities what is theirs, into creating the way how they used to create before they're contaminated, and to observe the world and create in the outside world according to the molecular level of abundance that they have inside of themselves through the energy of self-love. Next, please. We are right now helping to this area in Peru that we're working on, and we have one lake and we have 2 rivers that we're rewiring, we're retraining the molecular level to be able to bring it back into a higher frequency that can support the body of people in that community. They used to call them offerings, but this is more like in the chemistry level, into the quality of the water to be able to clear some of those genetic damage that had been done, to be able to help people to go back into their ways. Go ahead, next. Also, we have, because Peru is such an ancient country, we have the Nazca Lines, which are really huge, huge symbols that are on the ground, as you can see, and they're over here. And one of the symbols is an ancient symbol. So we don't know where this knowledge came from, the knowledge that I have right now, but we know it had to do with people that were very smart before the weaving time was created. So we're integrating back those teachings. As you can see, there's a symbol here that also is in India, and we're reintegrating back the behavior to that into the culture of the people. Next one. All right, so another program that we're going to have is the Regenerative Organic. We're retraining people to, before they start farming, they need to connect with the land, and they have to ask permission from the land, what they can produce, and how they're going to produce. So bringing back the nurturing to the land. Next one, please. Okay, and so that's kind of what it is right now. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, we have 7,000 acres right now in Peru and trying to bring back what has been lost. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. We've got a couple of questions that have already been expressed. Susie asks, she says, so interesting, especially the similarity to the 8 limbs of yoga, Buddhism, and the Enneagram. She's curious to know more about what a session looks like.
A session looks like, it's like a reading. It's like getting an X-rays. I will look into first, through my gifts, I look into the frequencies in your body. It's important you get to bring an intention, and based on your intention will work. So if your intention is, why am I feeling depleted, why I'm feeling fatigued, then I can go into your body and I can observe what's happening. And based on the observation, the awareness is coming to your mind, and you're observing and you're changing your behavior, the chances are that you can balance yourself and that pain or fatigue goes away from your body.
Did that answer your question, Susie? Okay, great. Leslie has a follow-up question. She wonders if you follow the Incan medicine wheel in your healing endeavors.
When I learned this concept, I was told that I should not read any books or be connecting what was in this world, because I was bringing something that it was almost extinct. So that's why I haven't been able to read books until my book gets to be published, which is going to be in April. And once that, I'll be able to read the different what's there. But this is very different. This is coming through channeling. This is information that my ancestor people that has crossover, talk to me and say, this is the way how you learn. This is the way how you train. This is the way. So it comes directly from people that has crossover and have this knowledge.
Thank you. We have time for more questions if anyone else like to ask. While we're waiting to see if anybody else does, Elena, am I correct in understanding that you're one of the very few women to have been trained in the Incan and pre-Incan tradition of shamanism?
Yes, it's very true. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to explain how this works, because you think you have everything figured out, right? Because you have a system, because you wake up in the morning, then you go to work, and then you go to the doctor if you get sick, or we think we have a system. This training for me was to get me out of that system and completely take me into a new way of thinking. And part of the thinking, the old ways of thinking, is that only men can have this knowledge. So for me to come and to have this knowledge has been challenging even for some shamans in Peru. But go ahead.
Ashley has a question, and I know we're starting to run out of time, but Ashley says, thank you. This has been amazing. Can you share how you discovered your gifts and fell into this path?
When I was born, I was able to hear. I was born with the wisdom. I think I was born with the ability to have my subconscious level connected to my conscious level. By the way, I come from a family that's very dysfunctional. And so what it really kept me going is hearing that my subconscious level talking to me and helped me to create the reality that I wanted to create. So instead of becoming a survivor or victim, which I have some of those behaviors as well, there was something bigger inside of me that was guiding me. But that doesn't mean that we all cannot awaken to our gifts. And that's what I'm bringing. Just because I have those gifts, that doesn't make me special. We all have the ability to awaken our gifts and be able to balance. That is what is beautiful. To be able to know that there's a point where you can just think about something and then you can heal yourself. You don't have to depend on a system that's not working. You want to embrace something that's working. Is that making sense? Yeah.
One of the things I think is so interesting is that you're a twin. And
yes.
I understand correctly, you decided to accept the gifts at a later point in your life, and your twin decided that this life not to accept them. Is that correct?
That's right. She's a beautiful person, but I think her mission was a little different. I think in a way, I consider my sister very gifted. She's very wise. She's very, but I think what it took me into this is the love that I had for people. It was the fact that I was looking, a homeless person, and I would think there's a way for that person to not be homeless. Or what's the way? Show me what's the way. I feel like I was always talking to the universe, trying to find solutions to how can we get out of this. And so for those symbols to come to us, which are genetic symbols, and they can clear the contamination of brain damage, or they can clear the contamination of a medication that was not good for the body, because I have seen that happening. I think it's a miracle in itself. It's just, it is good. I'm sorry about that. But I think this is this is the beauty of what we're coming into the world, to be able to accept that we're powerful in our mind. We just have to remember how to connect to our heart to be able to make it happen.
Well, thank you so much, Elena. If there's any other questions, if not, I think just let's give you a big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your gifts and your wisdom. And thank you for all of you who were able to attend today, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.